Hello, my name's Thomas, and I quit my job to make indie games, and I have been extremely busy lately, so let me catch you up with some of the stuff that I've been working on and how I have been so productive in the last month or so. Okay, so I've already talked about all the business stuff that I went into to form a proper LLC business entity so that I could port video games to consoles, and I'll link that video right there if you're interested in the logistics of all of that business stuff. But right now I'm going to be talking about the actual development work that I've been working on, and boy, let me tell you, I have made a lot of changes to my game. So let's get over it. Let's get over it with Bennett Foddy. So let's get to it. So since the last time that we spoke, I spoke, you listened. Not a great relationship, actually. So since the last time that we spoke, I got a PlayStation dev kit in the mail. I also drove 500 miles in one day, there and back to IKEA so that I could get a bunch of furniture for my newborn baby that's coming here pretty soon. And I have written a lot of code. But let me tell you, I have made some incredible progress with my tanks game. Okay, so let's jump back to a couple videos ago where the last thing that I updated you guys with were the power-ups that I added to my game. So the tanks could get different upgrades, but I kind of left on a cliffhanger because I didn't really talk about how the players would get those upgrades. So let me show you how that works now. So at first I wasn't really sure how I wanted to do it, but I knew that I wanted there to be a purchasing mechanic. So I grabbed my whiteboard and I started sketching out some possibilities that I could use to give upgrades to the player. So I'll probably post a picture here of my whiteboard sketch and some ideas that I had for the store, and I'll put that side by side with how it actually looks now, and you can kind of compare and see my process for that. I think it's actually pretty fun. So what I ended up with are these treasure chests that act as storefronts that players can go up to, and they can see what's for sale and if they have enough money to buy it, and then they can buy those upgrades. So this required me to make some info panels and figure out pricing and rarity for each item. So I put each power-up into its own rarity category, and I made a base price, so a certain amount of coins for each rarity of item, and then I added some randomness in there, so it's like plus or minus 3 coins or whatever, so that you get a little variability in the pricing. And I like this because it actually gives the player something else to do besides focusing on killing other tanks. So when you're in the middle of a battle, you need to watch your back, make sure that you're not going to get killed. You need to be looking at your opponents and trying to shoot them, but you also need to be on the lookout for coins, because if all you do is attack other enemies and you don't get any coins, then other players are going to be collecting coins and they will be better off in the long game because they'll have better upgrades and they'll be able to kill you more easily. So I designed these little icons for each upgrade in Photoshop, and you can see me as I go through here and I'm trying to figure out, because these icons are going to be like tiny on the screen, so you want them to be able to stand out even if they're very small on the screen. So I was trying to figure out how to convey the general effect of each upgrade through just a little symbol. A quick little rabbit trail that I went on here is that as I was designing these, I realized that I didn't want the text to be hard-coded for these info panels, because if I wanted to translate the game, then it was going to be a pain to go back and update all of these text objects. So I ended up actually making a quick little localization script. You can see what I did here. I just set up a Google Sheet where I have my localization key, and then right now just an English option, and I made a quick little CSV parser in C# so that it reads in the localization sheet, and I can just put in a localization ID and it can quickly look up what the English translation of that localization key is. So I got that in there, so now all of the text is localized. Actually, as a tangent, I should also talk about the debug feature that I put in. Okay. Setting aside the store and power-ups for a second, let's go into Localization Land. So in Localization Land, you want to make sure that every text in your game is localized, because if you switch from English to Spanish or German or whatever, you don't want to miss anything. You don't want anything left out. I made a debug feature that will translate each piece of text in the game that is localized into a specific string. That way, if anything isn't this specific string, I know that it's not localized and I need to go update it. So I was trying to figure out, well, what would be kind of a fun thing to do? And since I have the sense of humor of a 3-year-old, I decided to go with poop. So now I have a poop mode in my game. So if I turn it on, all of the text in the game becomes poop, which is hilarious. It gets me every time. And it's a really hilarious thing seeing the countdown sequence come on with poop. It gets me every time. Oh yeah, I added a countdown sequence to add some more anticipation into the gameplay. Side tangent over, let's jump back into the upgrades. Okay, so with these upgrades, I also had to figure out how I wanted to display which upgrades the players had purchased. So I redesigned some of the HUD, I made some rounded UI elements in Photoshop. So all of the upgrades are split into two categories. There's active upgrades and passive upgrades. And passive upgrades do things like increase your speed or some other stuff that you don't need to do anything for it to take effect. But the active upgrades have a specific button that when you press it, they activate. So the active upgrades got their own little slot in the UI where they have a big icon, and you can only have one of those at a time. And then I put below that are all of your passive upgrades. And there's like 4 or 5 slots for that. I think it worked out pretty well. You can kind of glance at somebody's HUD and see what icons they have and kind of get an idea of what upgrades they have in their possession. So once I had all that, the game was looking way different than it used to because it had a bunch of upgrades and the store and everything and new levels. So I decided to update the Steam page, which took kind of a long time because I had to redo the trailer, put in some new footage, and update the screenshots and all of that. So now the Steam page is updated. Well, yeah, okay, it's outdated now, but at the time it was updated. So yes, confirmed this game will ship on Steam and PlayStation, and I'm still waiting to hear back on other consoles, but those two for sure. So if you want to wishlist the game on Steam, it will definitely be coming out pretty soon. Okay, so from there I transferred to some of the metagame stuff, and I'm talking like the title screen and the lobby and the pause menu and all of this stuff that isn't the actual gameplay, but it's the infrastructure of the game. And so I redid all of the UI, I redid all of the input systems so that in the code I could keep track of what the player controls are doing, which controllers can use which menus and who they select and all of that. So I redid the title screen. I'll probably change it again, but I just threw my key art in the background with a very simple title options menu. But I wanted to do something cool for the lobby because I wanted a good space where you could hang out, listen to some chill music, join some players, edit the configuration of the game mode, choose different colors and all of this stuff. So you can see what I did for the lobby screen here, and I think it turned out pretty good. There's still some stuff that I need to fix with it. There's some more customizations that I want to add, but I think that it's definitely giving me the right vibes and tone that I was going for. So pretty happy with that. Oh yeah, another thing that I had to do with the lobby was I had to give instructions for what buttons to press. What button do I press to join the game? What button do I press to add a bot? What button do I press to change the gameplay mode? And these are things that I hadn't really thought about before, but depending on if you're using a keyboard or a PlayStation controller or an Xbox controller or whatever else, those are going to be different things. So I had to set up kind of an interesting system where I can figure out what kind of input the player is using and then figure out what character best represents the button that I want to choose. Here, I'll show you. Like these buttons, you know, A, B, Y, X, and then here you have X, circle, triangle, square. But in the code, they're just referred to as like X and A would both be south, and then you have east, north, west, and that just is a universal way to refer to them. But I had to figure out a way to map north, south, east, and west to different gameplay controller types. So that's something that I worked on as well. What else did I do? I drank a lot of coffee. That's what I did. Then I did some more work on the results screen to show how the players are doing and who's winning, and made some nice animations for those to come in. Then I added a loading screen, which I'm really happy with. I have this setup where in Unity everything is based off of scenes, and I have a base scene that's always loaded because you always need at least one scene loaded in Unity. I have my base scene, and then I can take like level 1 and dynamically load it in, and then when it comes time to go to level 2, then I can unload level 1, load in level 2, and then put a loading screen in front of that. So I made this real fun loading screen that animates in, and I made the letters jump up and down so it has some good dynamism. And then behind the loading screen is all of the heavy lifting of properly unloading the previous scene and loading the next scene and so on. Let's see. I also updated the pause screen and made sure that it actually paused the gameplay now, and I added an option for enabling cheats, which makes it much easier to debug stuff. So then I decided to add different difficulty settings to the bots, and this was actually really easy to do because I already had a bunch of the necessary configurations pulled into a scriptable object. So I could just create a new scriptable object for the new tank behaviors for each difficulty. And then I can change the speed, the line of sight, the distance, the turn speed, etc. I also made it so bots that are set to hard or very hard will start with a random upgrade. So they will be laying down mines or shooting out special projectiles or whatever. It makes them a lot more fun to battle against. So before, the options menu had a toggle to turn music and sound effects on or off, but I knew that I had to have volume sliders. But I realized that I could make it way easier on myself if instead of having an actual slider, I just made a button that would increment the volume by 10%. So now you can just scroll in, hit a button, and it just goes up, 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 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, all the way up to 100, then it goes back down to 0. And that was like a major win because it saved me a ton of time, and I don't think that it hinders the user experience at all. Then came a very grueling part of the project. I had to update the Unity version because you see, prior to this, I was using Unity 20. I was either on 2019 or 2020, and so I updated to 2023, which broke a lot of stuff. Yeah, and I don't see why. I only skipped like 3 years of the editor's development. Yeah, so that's it. I have been just grinding away. I've been clocking in early hours and late nights and just doing my thing, coding a bunch. I'm making a tremendous amount of progress. I'm really happy with where the game's going. I think I'm getting fairly close to where I want it to be before I can release it. I'm gonna add a few more features and a lot more bug fixes, but it's looking pretty good and it's really fun to play. I just got it running on the PlayStation, so everything seems to be working pretty much flawlessly right now. It took me a while to get everything set up, but the porting process for that is going great. Hoping to get it on other consoles as well, but right now I'm going to be focusing on Steam and PlayStation. Those are my 2 places that you'll be able to pick it up here pretty soon. To be honest, I was dragging my feet to make this video because I have just been on a roll making really good improvements to my game, and I didn't want to take the time today to record this video. So sorry, but my schedule has kind of been all over the place because I actually made another video like a week or 2 ago, but I haven't been able to post it because I'm waiting for someone else to post a video and launch it in tandem with that. I've just been making all this progress, but I wanted to keep you all updated. Things are going good. Let me know if you have any recommendations for things that I can add or improve to the game in the comments below. Subscribe if you want to hear more about this crazy journey of trying to make games and sell them to make a living. Hopefully I won't be eating top ramen for the rest of my life. And I think that's all she wrote. If you want early access to the beta build of this game, then you can join my Patreon community, and I'm going to be passing out links so that people can play test before this thing goes live. Yeah, thanks for sticking around. Thanks for all of the encouragement, and I'll see you guys in the next one.